Thank you for joining us tonight. We are thrilled that you are spending some time with us. My name is Judith Platz. I'm the Chief Customer Officer for SupportLogic. I love seeing so many familiar faces and new faces. So we're going to spend a little bit of time, okay, you know, there is no such thing as a free meal, right? We can admit that. So we're thrilled to have you, but we're really thrilled about the fact that, yes, we're going to talk a little bit about SupportLogic. And by the way, there's a demo station back there. If you haven't had the opportunity, back there, our Vanos are waiting to show you a demo if you're interested. However, you're here for each other more than you are for us. We brought together support and success professionals. We need to be together in moments like this. We're wrestling with a lot of tough stuff in our industry. So we love having you here. We're going to do a panel in a few moments, and you'll hear from some of my favorite people in the industry. And I'm going to ask them a few questions. I'm going to ask you a few questions, so I hope you're ready. And then you can ask some questions of your own, okay? So again, I start with gratitude, and thank you for being with us. First joining me is Paul Lyons. Paul is with us from Red Hat, and fun fact, he spent 3 hours with us yesterday, and he was willing to come back today. So Paul, please join me. Yeah. Paul's the Vice President of Experience Engineering at Red Hat. Next, Stefan. Is that okay? Stefan Eaton. Stefan is an industry executive, formerly with DataRobot, which was a SupportLogic customer. So he has stories to tell you from those days. And we're thrilled to have you with us. And please join us.
Yeah.
And they haven't seen the questions that I'm going to ask, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Some personal, some professional. And last but not least, our CEO and founder, Krishna Raj Raja. Krishna, please join us. And he hasn't seen the questions either.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm really curious.
So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being on the panel. So Krishna, I'll actually start the first question with you. Ready? So actually, I have to wonder if I'm ready. Besides being on this panel with me as a moderator, what's the riskiest thing you've ever done?
A few glasses of drinks. Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I don't know. Maybe I'll choose a tame one. I did skydiving.
Okay.
Many years ago. Probably the most sudden rush I ever had was skydiving. Skydiving, because I did tandem skydiving. First time you do tandem skydiving. And when you're tandem skydiving, you're latched on to someone behind your back. They own the parachute, so you don't know the parachute. So when you're jumping out of the plane, you don't even know you're latched on correctly. And you are front facing and you're asked to jump first. And it's a complete leap of faith that the person behind you is latched onto you, has a working parachute, and you're jumping. But it's one of the most incredible experiences I've had.
Awesome.
The adrenaline rush is the first time I truly felt throughout my body. It's probably the most riskiest thing I've done. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Okay, Paul, ready?
Okay.
Okay. Have you ever made a prank phone call?
Yes.
Recently?
No.
Okay.
Caller ID. But I do have a funny story. It's Dan's worked with me for a long time. So back in the old days, I used to work at EMC, and I used to answer the phones in the support center. You could always tell if somebody was calling you back. And now I'm going to date myself.
Okay.
There are pagers. You page somebody, they call through a line, shows up, you know it's somebody responding to a page. I answered the phone Domino's.
Okay.
It was Frank Hauk, our EVP of Global Services at EMC. And to this day, he still asks, what's the special at Domino's?
Did you keep your job?
It was a touch and go there for a little bit, yeah. But I survived.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that. Ready for yours? Stefan?
No.
No, Stefan? What is your go-to dance move?
Ooh, that's a good one.
This is a two-part question.
Okay.
Oh, it's careful the second part.
If I have on the right shoes.
Okay. Shoes are important. Everyone at SupportLogic knows.
I can do kind of like a slow walk or a crip walk. That's out of this world. Look on Facebook. You might see me on there doing.
Okay. The second part of the question, will you show me?
I don't know that I have the right shoes on, but it's. I tell you what. I'll give you the clip on Facebook. You can see it for yourself.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Good icebreakers. Thank you, gentlemen. So just a little bit about what we're going to do here together. Thank you. Again, you registered. You've spent some time networking. We are going to do our panel. There'll be a little bit more networking after the panel. And then, of course, we'll adjourn. And hopefully you will go home and say that was a lovely evening. Okay? That's what we look forward to, and that's why we put these events on. So for those of you, support experience right now, this entire company that Krishna has built is based around the support experience. Krishna and I have many talks about this. Some of you know me from my days at TSIA and Salesforce and such. We did something in the industry. We made a mistake, right? And I'll say that. We over-rotated. Quite honestly, we over-rotated to customer experience. And we did. We spent all of our money, all of our time, all of our attention. We focused on the customer experience. We left out the most important asset that those of us in support know is our people, right? So we're pivoting and trying to bring the entire industry with us along on this journey to pay attention to the agent experience, therefore the support experience. And every one of these personas, and I think when I was looking earlier at registration, we've covered this here tonight. All of these personas represented here on this slide have something to do with creating the right support experience. So fun fact, you guys don't get to ask me fun questions, but I get to tell my own fun fact stories. Only the ones I choose to. So I knew SupportLogic before I worked here. And as a matter of fact, I knew it before Krishna had even really built what he has built today. And I remember saying, so a bunch of you in the room know John Ragsdale and from TSIA. And I said, if that software can be built, it will change the face of support. I moved from TSIA, I went to MuleSoft Salesforce, and it was the first piece of software. It was my biggest bet. I bought the software because I knew I needed it. And at Salesforce, those of you who've been around, you don't buy. Salesforce doesn't buy software. We made it through the selection process, and it changed my world. And a little over a year ago, I reached out to Krishna on LinkedIn, of course, and said, hey, if you're ever, I'm interested. And here I am today, and I'm one of the fiercest advocates for this software. It will change life for the agents, for the managers, for the executives, for the entire company. So again, sorry, that's the plug. There's a demo station back there. Please see it. You can also see demos online. Recently, if you didn't receive notification, we had 1,500 people attend SX Live. We had over 50 speakers. It was all about the support experience, the agent experience. It was about the struggles that we're all going through in support and success. All of that content is available to you for free. So you don't have to, enter a credit card, none of that stuff. Please, if you want, take a screenshot there or a phone shot. There is some amazing content available on our library. Joe Andrews standing there looking shy. Joe, is a hot dog a sandwich?
I do.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It is? Is a hot dog a sandwich? It's not. It's not. Okay. Table 1, is a hot dog a sandwich? No? Okay. Table 2? No. Table 3? Okay. Okay. Joe Andrews is our Chief Marketing Officer. This work, Joe and his team, Reggie, who you all met when you showed up, it's amazing, amazing stuff. And please, take advantage of it, okay? So let's go in and start some of our questions and spend some time with our panelists and, talk to each other about what's going on. So Paul, I gave a little bit of an introduction about you. Could you tell us more about you, about your role, about your career trajectory?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. I'm Paul Lyons. I'm the Vice President of Experience Engineering at Red Hat. What that means is a good chunk of the customer experience and customer touch points come from my teams, whether it's via human or the digital touch. So I manage our customer portal development as well as our site systems. Of the traffic that go to those sites, they go to product documentation, so I manage the product documentation teams as well. And then I have the global support organization as well as critical accounts. So all of the things that we can't solve, we via the digital touch, come into my global support organization, come into my critical accounts team. And basically, we looked at it for a while and we were customer experience for a while. We have added sustaining engineering as part of that mission. That really is how do we get fixes out to our customers as quickly as possible. So we did a shift and changed it. We're underneath the CTO organization, so we are an engineering organization. So we ended up branding about 2 years ago with experience engineering. But it takes all of those different pieces, brings it together to improve the customer experience.
Okay. Stefan, you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been working in support for the last 27 years, and I've been fortunate enough, or unfortunate, I'm not sure, to work at a series of startups here in Boston that have done well. I participated in a startup called Integrity that launched what everyone knows today as identity management. There was no single sign-on before SiteMinder and Integrity. And I set up all of the support there. I was the first engineer there and ultimately ran that support organization. I've had the pleasure of working at a company called Kiva Systems. I think, again, my magic number is 50. And if I show up and I'm employee number 50, it usually works out pretty good. I was employee number 50 at Kiva Systems also, and that did pretty well. I think it's now called Amazon Robotics, and they probably have about 200 to 300,000 robots in production. But when they first started, they had one customer called Staples, and that was it. And I was the robot jockey that went out and hit the button and kept the robots going. I spent some time over at Toast. I didn't particularly like the restaurant business, but I helped get them off the ground too. I spent about a year and a half over there getting them started. Again, I was employee number 52. That's probably why it didn't work out. And the last one that I did, I was also at this stints at Salesforce and at IBM. Salesforce was a purchase of a company called Demandware. And the last one that I was at was DataRobot. And there, the task was really building a worldwide support organization. But what was different and something that I had pursued was that it was an AI company. And I just left Salesforce. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to use AI in support. And we could do it at Salesforce, but as you can tell them about it, Judy, it would have taken forever. But this company presented an opportunity to go faster and do it well. And then we'll get into that, because that's not what happened. That's how I met Krishna. Is that I realized quickly that it was going to take too long. My initial forays into it failed. We finally got it right, but I wouldn't have made the progress that I made if I hadn't got SupportLogic. And that's what made it easy for me, because I knew what I wanted to do, but they were already doing it. So that's my kind of background, and that's why I'm here today.
Awesome. Thank you. Krishna, you know I love your backgrounds because most CEOs don't come up the way that you did. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I think I may have shared this in other forums, but I'll share it for this audience here. So my background is actually operating systems. We're talking about 1996 and 97. Red Hat was one of my favorite operating systems back then. Big Linux evangelist at the time. So I always wanted to work for an operating system company. And so early 2002, there was this startup called VMware, and they reached out to me. I was in India at the time, and I was one of the few Linux evangelists. Actually, there is my friend here who also was a Linux evangelist. We used to go to Linux user groups. Right. Back in those days. Anyway, so they reached out to me because of my Linux expertise and said, hey, we're going to offer you a job, but it's going to be in support. And I was in operating system, I was an engineer, and I was like, what? What am I going to do support for? Ended up taking the job because I loved the company so much. I was their first hire in India. When I was hired, the company was 80 people. They had a support team of 4 people, and it was a very casual support at the time. People would go to Beer Bash on Friday evening, and if the customer files a ticket, good luck to you, and we'll get back to you on Monday. That was the support culture when I joined. I was the 5th support engineer. I was the first hire in India, so I set up the support function in India. And VMware as a company took off. I never thought VMware will become such a big company. Ended up being, it disrupted every industry, every player in that space back in those days. So I spent 10 years there, grew the support function, learned a lot, and I ran building to building, taking the insights I gathered from support and taking into product teams, taking into engineering teams, taking into marketing teams. So that's 10 years, then joined a startup, which was founded by some of the early employees of VMware, funded by Diane Green, who was the founder and CEO of VMware. Spent 3 years there. Then I started SupportLogic. So why did I start SupportLogic? The foundational years I spent at VMware has been transformative in my understanding of the intersection between technology and humanity, and how technology breaks gloriously in front of humanity. And that's where support comes into place. When technology doesn't work and you're dealing with human beings, support comes into place. So that's the story, and that's what led me to down the path of SupportLogic. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. And this is your friend, right, Karthik?
Karthik, yeah.
And you've known Krishna for like 20 years? 25 years. Yeah. 25 years. Okay, Karthik, a question for you. Does he have a go-to dance move?
I'd say so.
Okay.
Nobody's going to show it. But
Okay. All right, just checking. All right. Remember, Krishna, you took a risk putting me up here today, right? So actually, Paul, I'm going to start with you with this one, okay? Given the backdrop of the pressure in the current economic climates, we were just talking earlier about renewals and how difficult those have become for all of us, right, recently and such. What are the top challenges for your organization right now? And what are you struggling with to make your customers successful?
I think there's a mix. I think there's some internal and there's some external. I think the challenges that we come across when it comes to our customers and partners is they're being asked to do more with less. When we look at maybe some of our more mature, stable products, that's something that we can work through. When it comes to our emerging products and maybe the maturity not being where it needs to be, that's where it becomes difficult for us to be able to work with our customers and help them get to the install, deploy, adopt phases as they go through their journey. So I think that's probably one of the bigger challenges that we have, is that our customers' demands from their companies, they're looking to do more with less. Very similar to what we're trying to do internally is how do we actually change the way we're doing things today, and how do we leverage some of the things that are out there, whether it's our partnerships with SupportLogic to be able to manage where we focused in is like, how do we mitigate escalations in the field? To what we're doing right now in the second half and heading into next year is how do we jump on some of the AI automation pieces that could really help us help our customers. And I think that's probably the piece where for my team is we're not growing. We are looking at this, it's going to be pretty flat, but we have the opportunities to maybe look and say, are there things that we can do differently? Maybe that's within the process. Or are there things that we can look at where we can do more automation, use some more intelligence to be able to get the answers out to our customers? I'll give you an example. We're always saying we want to be a touchless experience. We are at Red Hat right now are certainly very invested into the cloud services business. We have a lot of our products being offered with AWS and other cloud providers. It's not our strong suit. We're very super comfortable in the on-prem world. How do we make it easier for our customers, not only that are coming direct to us, but are coming from our partners as well, to make that experience successful so it doesn't lead to a ticket? So my group is a little bit different because I manage the digital side of the house. I manage the docs, because if you're coming to us, you're probably looking for some knowledge or some information. And then I also have support. So a lot of the things we're trying to do is, how do we improve the overall experience as far as the touch points? How do we take a look at what we're doing right now and understanding, are there some things that we can automate? I'll give you an example. I'm not going to jump into the AI topics. I think we'll probably, everybody's talking about AI, and I'm sure we'll get deeper into it. But we have a set of rules that we do internally within our own systems. We call them insights. It's a product we have. So if there's an insight rule and you have it loaded at our customer, you can know what the most common performance, maybe it's a security CVE issue, or if it's a bug, you'll be able to get that. But we have that at the customer level. We have it at the internal level that shows up with our CRM. It even goes back to our, what we call our support shell, our diagnostics. But it's very basic. It's something we've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years. How do we take that and look at maybe some of the modeling that we can do more with that type of knowledge versus just having a rule, if you have this, go here, or if you have a rule like this. And it does help us as far as self-solve and empower our customers, but there's also some opportunities there. It's like, there are things that we can probably do that help our engineers and our customers at the same time. That maybe takes a different approach, and I think that's what we're trying to explore right now. And some of the things that we're doing right now are kind of showing some of those benefits. We're gonna have to do more of that so that we can I'd rather do a proactive touch than a reactive touch, and my support organization feels the same way. If I could do more proactive touch points, then be super awesome with my SLA, my CSAT, our customer effort score, my backlog management. It will help us on the renewal side, because at the moments that matter in the life cycle aren't necessarily revolving around reactive engagements.
Yeah. The days of how you handled escalations, right? We all know the way you recovered from those mattered. But today, can we just not have them to begin with, right? Can we please, really? I talk to so many customers in my role, and it's one of these things, escalation's just a way of life. It's like, are we done thinking like that? Like, we don't need to think that way anymore, right? So thank you for those insights. Stefan, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking about what Paul was talking about. So I'll reference it from my time at DataRobot, which I was there until June, I think. One of the greatest challenges that I was facing was retaining the employees that I had. And the other challenge is, Paul, I was trying to create a different kind of support organization that was based on AI. So the other challenge I had was, how do I create time for the employees that I had that could work on building models and things like that? How could I create time for them to do that without taking away from the customers? And then stretching them like that. How do I keep them? How do I retain them? That was a big problem. And the other problems were once I had data or I had insight, getting that to be actionable. We had created a vision where we wanted to build an AI support organization. We were well on the way toward that, but it required a relationship with the other organizations to participate in. And that was a challenge. We could get some things through engineering. You get little hits and misses with customer success, product management, really hard to get them. And I'm talking about using the insights and using that data, because that was important. So now, how do I make support a strategy within the company itself? That was a challenge. And we'll probably hit some others, but those are the two that I would highlight. Okay. Retaining employees, training those employees, keeping them relevant, and I'll come back to that topic again, because AI is hard. It really is. I mean, it's hard to build the models, and it's even harder to get a model in production. And at the company I was at, you had to value that model. There was a process where we had to report back into the executives, how much was this model worth? And what was it actually doing in terms of money and value?
Great, thank you. Krishna, I'm going to go with a new question for you, okay? Customer experience, we talked about that a little bit. For the last decade, that's what we heard about. You could attach CX to anything, and everybody knew what that meant. You are working along with your company to build support experience and to make that a reality. We've also been talking about predictive, proactive support for a long time. Yeah, I don't think that anybody has fully ever nailed what that really means, right? What is proactive support? So I'm going to put that together for you, Krishna. What does support experience mean to you? And what does proactive support mean to you?
So this old term support experience is the phrase and the concept we've been wrestling with internally because when we built SupportLogic, we knew exactly what we were building, what problems we were solving. What category it fits in was unclear. And so Joe and I brainstormed multiple times, like, what are we building? What category it is? How can we simplify the message to our customers, what we are building? Support experience emerged from those conversations. And the way I see this is, as Judy, you pointed out earlier, industry is over-rotated on customer experience. It's an umbrella term. It means different things to different people. For some people, it means how your website looks. For some people, it means how you package your product. For some people, it means what your product does and what the user experience of your product is, right? Customer experience has many dimensions to it. And what I noticed was the support part of it was completely ignored in this equation. And my first-hand experience is support experience is your brand experience. Today, brands are identified by the memorable support you received, that you take it with you, and you switch companies, you say, these guys will fix our problems if you ever have a problem, right? And I thought, oh, this is the most powerful thing a company can deliver, and that's completely ignored in the CX equation. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is to tie into proactive support and predictive support. And I've mentioned this in the past also. 7 years ago, and I did escalations at VMware. I was the global escalations lead. If an issue is not solved with me, it goes to engineering. I was the final say in a lot of escalations. So at the time, if somebody told me, Krishna, here's a tool that can predict escalations, I would say, go away. And if they told me here's a tool that also can prevent escalations, I'd say, you're smoking something. But today we have the technology. Not only we can predict escalations, we can prevent escalations. In fact, even I was very skeptical about preventing escalations. Maybe I thought we could predict escalations. Maybe we can predict the inevitable. And what is the use in predicting the inevitable? We can predict tomorrow it's going to rain, but we can't prevent rain, at least not today in technology, right? So for me, the first phase of, predicting escalations was very exciting. But then being able to demonstrate we can preventing escalation was, even for me as a founder, is an eye-opener. And why I think it's the case is a lot of the support issues, at least even in my first-hand experience, was not necessarily because of a problem that customer have to call today and saying, I need to escalate this issue. Though those were those cases. There were some cases where you have outages or something, customer production systems down, they escalate with you. Vast majority of escalations I was dealing with was because engineers prior to me messed it up. Really messed it up, dragged the case along, and the issue should have been solved in a few days, ended up being a few weeks and few months. And these are what I call as preventable escalations. So being able to predict that in advance using a technology like AI, giving you early warning and preventing it, that's one part of the proactive support equation. But that's not how, I don't think that's the end of proactive support. That's a very small piece of proactive support. I think proactive support means anticipating, right? And prediction is part of the anticipation. If you can't predict, you can't anticipate. And the technology that we have today, the large language models or AI, whatever you want to call it, they're incredibly powerful in predicting a lot of stuff. I'd say in Silicon Valley, they would say a lot of really good talent in data science, people say has been wasted away for ads. I mean, really some of the world's best predictive engines can predict what you're going to click next, right, in your ads. And they can show you the exact ads you want to see at the exact time you want to see so that you will click on it and will purchase it. That's all prediction engines. So we have been having predictive powers within our hands for quite some time, but not really applied to problems that really matters. And that's starting to happen right now. So I think that's my worldview on support experience and proactive support.
Okay. Paul, what does support experience mean to you? That term.
I think for me, it would be, if I were to be risky here, it's like the support experience would be something that would be seamless and touchless at the same time.
Seamless and touchless.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would look at it, I kind of say, folks that are part of my team is my customer portal team, my docs team. Their job in life is to put support out of business. So 98% of our engagements is through our site systems or our customer portal. If there's a way where we can actually put the power of what our support engineers have done and have learned into our customers' hands, I think the support experience is being able to kind of get the solution and the knowledge into the right hands at the right time. For me, it doesn't even land with the support organization. I think it's really about what can we do to change that interaction, that engagement that allows our customers to grow without necessarily having to go with the human touch. Now, I hate using seamless, but I think it's overused, but I also think it's like a touchless, it would be for me. It's like if we can do something, especially these days, where everything is being done digitally through our portal or direct into our emails or CRM, there's got to be a way where we can actually make it easier for our customers so that if they do experience an issue, they don't have to engage with an actual human being. They can find the solution on their own. Then all the other pieces, there's kind of like the plumbing behind the scenes. If it does come to support or if we have the analytics to say we're seeing something specific that we should go address, then that's the plumbing in the back end that the customer doesn't need to know about. Maybe the sausage making of, hey, we have product issues, usability issues, diagnostics, supportability pieces that need to be addressed in our products. How do we utilize that data to help drive a better experience? I always kind of think, as you heard me the other day, I talk customer success, product success, and associate success. If your product success is a focus in your company, your customer success will be there as long as you all interpret product success as the same. Not only does it help you solve business problems, but it is easy to use it as far as usability, diagnostics, and supportability, and solves your business problems. That will translate into a better overall experience. So I went off topic. My support experience is how do we meet our customers or our partners where they are and provide them the solution that they need to be successful in solving their business challenges. And in my view, it's like a touchless experience where it doesn't hit a support organization.
Great. Just a sound check. Are you all able to hear okay? Are we doing okay on that, projecting our voices? Yeah? Okay. Just a quick check. Stefan, I'm going to ask you the role of data and AI. Okay? So at DataRobot, and you were at other companies, support is sitting on so much data, right? And we've always said, if we could get that data into the right hands, we would be the heroes in a company, right? We have so many more. I think the average that we used to talk about at TSAA, 10 times more touch points out of support than any other organization in the company. Do you have some examples of how you use data, but more importantly, the insights from that data? Were you able to do something in your orgs with that data, with those insights to help, whether it's customer success, the product team, Sales. Can you talk a little bit about an example?
First, I want to go back to that support experience thing.
Yeah.
I've come up with a phrase that actually is the name of a book. It's called "A Ticket Is Too Late," and that kind of sums it all up, right? At the point where that customer is creating a ticket, it's like the horse has left the barn. The thing that AI makes me think about is something that Krishna was talking about, was the signal, way upstream. How do I pick up that signal upstream, and can I make that actionable? Can I tell the customer in Paul's model before anything happened? Or can I pick up that signal and take an action to prevent something from happening? And that's what we were trying to do at DataRobot. Now back to your issue, your question. One of the good things that DataRobot had is there was a CEO there. There were 3 CEOs, but there was one there who put in this whole data analyst kind of organization so that he could have a view of the performance of the company. That's really what he wanted. So he put Snowflake in, and everybody had to dump all that data in there. And so you had this whole team that could create Tableau dashboards and do all of this stuff. And that I was very comfortable with that coming from Salesforce. So we immediately struck up about 13 dashboards that you could drill down into and see what was going on. Turned out that wasn't enough. So to give you an example, we were still looking at these resolution times, and people just weren't satisfied with what we were doing. Now, our scores were great. You know, our customer sat scores were great. Customer effort, we were hitting it. We weren't knocking it out the park. Our agent sat scores were really great. And some of the other scores were really great. But the result that was happening, at least the perception, was that customers are churning. It must be customer support, right? So I had to dig into this. So we came up with this metric. It was very interesting. And it was around resolution. And the metric basically said 75% of all tickets needed to be solved within 5 days, and 90% needed to be solved within 10 business days. That 90% had to do with, well, you got to test and build something to put it on-prem, or you had to fix something and get it deployed in the cloud. It didn't just, go there. Somebody had to test it and get it there. So it took a little extra. What was the most interesting thing about that was this: we hit the number pretty well, but what was interesting were the outliers. The long poll ones were the most informative, because it was like, what the hell is this? This took 30 days? How is that possible? What was more interesting were the short poll ones. It took 5 minutes. Why am I doing that?
Yeah.
Why are we spending time? Why are we taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to fix something? We shouldn't be doing that. And when you put it all together and started analyzing it, then it really got interesting, because you started to see, well, all right, let's look at Jira. Let's go deeper and try to see what this stuff means. And then we were getting some real good answers around how we weren't really adhering to SLAs and assigning tickets to engineers where there were product defects and things like that. And all of this was fixable stuff. So I think wielding that data that way is tremendous. Also, the thing that I talked about earlier was, in order to get that signal, you need data. I didn't talk about that a lot, but in order to do the feature engineering that you need a lot of data. You have it. You can run your model. You can do the training, and you can go through the process of figuring out what is influencing this the most. Whether it's we didn't put we had sentiment models that predicted the sentiment of the customer, but we were using SupportLogic, and it was just quicker. So we didn't put it into production. But we had some for severity, particularly severity 1, and we worked on that really hard. We had models that did skill groups that no one's touching the ticket. It would just immediately put it in a skill group for that particular group with that particular skill to work on it. Saved a lot of time. If it was a Sev 1, we could pick up that signal and do the alerting and fire off all the stuff that we needed to fire off on the step one. And most of the time, it was very, very accurate. We could get ahead of that step one and knock it down from becoming an escalation. It's a little different than what you were doing with the likely to escalate. This is things that came in as a step one, or we predicted it to be a step one. So that's some of the ways that we use data in the environment that I was in. And those are some of the things we were able to do. But
Great. Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. So in the room, we have a number of SupportLogic employees. Would you all just raise your hand and wave a little bit? And we all work for Krishna. Krishna, how do you expect all of us in the room, your employees, how do you expect us to use the data that we have on our customers? What is it that you think we should be doing with the data we have?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the support data is for everyone in the company. It's not just for support teams. And fortunately, historically, support team has always seen as a siloed function. In my VMware, it's a separate building. We have our own system of record isolated from the rest of the company. Nobody cared what we did as long as we sent the customers away fixing the problem. They didn't want to be bothered, right? That is completely the wrong view of looking at customer support. To Stefan's earlier point, it's a strategic initiative for our company. Because every customer interaction, there is so many things you can learn. You can learn about what in your product is working and not working. What is in your process that is working and not working. What you need to build in your product that you're not building today. Is there a documentation gap in your product? Is there a feature request that you need to prioritize? All of that is buried in support tickets. If you just keep it as a siloed function and let support do its own thing and you don't never listen to support, eventually you're building a product that nobody wants. So the voice of the customer, the real voice of the customer, not surveys, the real voice of the customer is in support tickets. That needs to be shared with the rest of the organization on an ongoing basis. There's not something you do on a quarterly basis and put PowerPoint presentation, everybody's happy, you walk away, and you go back doing the same thing that you ever done, right? This needs to be influencing product decisions on a weekly basis. This should be influencing your marketing decisions on a weekly basis. This should be influencing your sales strategy on a weekly basis. That is the fundamental vision of SupportLogic. So that's what I expect my team to do, is listen to every support ticket. Of course, not every conversation is worth listening to. This is where AI intelligence comes into play, that shows the signals that you need to pay attention to. And being informed in that loop and knowing what's happening, like you dished out a product. Today's world, we're dishing out product every 2 weeks. In my VMware days, every 2 years, right? We would have a release exactly every 2 years. And now product features are getting pushed in every 2 weeks. So if you don't listen to what your customers are saying, what are you pushing to your customers every 2 weeks? So I think that feedback loop needs to exist very closely with engineering, very closely with the product teams, very closely with the sales teams, very closely with marketing teams, because sometimes you may market a product which is not reality. Or you may not understand the customer is using a product in a very specific way that you may worth highlighting. All of that is in support data. So that's how I see it. Like, it's data for everyone.
Great. Thank you. Can I have someone raise their hand from this table? Just one person? Great. Can you do a celebrity impression? You saved yourself from part B, which was show me. Okay. So keep in mind, I'm coming for those 2 tables next, okay? So I'm going to ask the next question here. I want to talk a little bit about a topic none of us like to talk about, the economy, okay? You have all, and I'm going to focus, Paul, I'm going to start this one with you, getting your CFO to be on your side. You've talked a lot about, the touchless experience. That doesn't come inexpensively, right? You have invested in tools. You have had to go to finance and make business cases, right? How did you do that most effectively? If you had one hint, one tip, one trick that you could share to make your CFO your business partner, what did you do? How did you do it?
I try to present it as, summarize it as our business challenge, but also being able to kind of show how I can help solve their challenges as well, or maybe others. And what I mean by that is, I love the touchless support experience, but reality is reality. It's like we're going to have to figure out ways where we can do things differently and to add efficiency into our business. A big piece of that conversation was we know how much money we spend on major escalations. And that's only the stuff we can track within our organizations. When I'm talking about my organization and the wider engineering, but I'm not talking about all of the account folks or maybe the partner folks that get pulled into these. It's a big drain on our resources. So part of that is that we can add efficiency in and maybe do more with our resources within our organization. But on the other side, and I kind of highlighted this, is that I also manage the sustaining engineering team at Red Hat. That's a new team within the last year, and it was like, well, I can look to drive automation and efficiency into the organization, but then I can also repurpose and reallocate and be able to help solve a bigger problem that may not be in my organization today. Cool thing is it's the customer experience no matter how you look at it. Number one. Number two is half my organization is global support. Chances are they're going to end up in engineering anyway, so why wouldn't I, this is my selfish one, I was going to say don't record this, but this is my selfish one, is like I want to be able to give another career path to my folks and help solve not only the challenges that we have in my organization, but maybe in the wider engineering organization, and have that career path as part of it. So it's an easy sell. I shouldn't say it was easy. We went back and forth, and Scott on my team we were able to show that. The benefits of looking at bringing this type of partnership in and what we would see for the savings and the efficiency that would come into our organization. I think the biggest challenge that I probably had internally, and I think you brought it up a little bit earlier, I work at Red Hat, and God, we love to build everything, and it doesn't matter if it's in our product scope or not, we're gonna try and build it. That would probably be the biggest challenge, is how do you ensure that, hey, guess what? There are some times we wanna build, and there are some that we wanna be able to partner. I think that would probably, wasn't even the CFO part of your question, but my biggest challenge is that we have a lot of smart people that wanna solve a lot of problems, and they just wanna go do it. And more importantly, bringing them back to why we were doing this and the benefits, and then that's how I would present it up to the finance organization.
Awesome. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You talked about your employees, right? How does Red Hat view support? Is it the farm league for going into other orgs, or are you fully vested in, hey, no, support's a meaningful career and I want to keep them here and make them the best, or some hybrid of that?
Yes.
Okay.
I know my biggest partner in my peers is the Senior VP of Global Engineering. And I know within his organization, I feel super proud that my folks go in there. Whether that's in QE or development or maybe even part of program management within his organization, also makes me feel pretty comfortable knowing that those folks that are going in there have that customer experience. So they're going to bring that into that organization. So we certainly have that. I would be a really good farm system for a lot of different parts of the organization. We were just talking with somebody earlier. It's like product management, QE, engineering, even finance and other places that they scatter in sales and field and consulting, all of those. So I am a really good place for a start for somebody's beginning of their career. And we wear it as a badge of honor of people going into other organizations. So that would be the biggest part. But we do have folks that have gone to engineering. They don't want to sit in the cube, and they don't want to look at thousands of lines of code and figure out what to do. They want to go solve a problem. So we've had the boomerangs that have gone over and thought, hey, I've made it. I'm over in engineering. This is great. Come to find out, like a year later, like, I miss the excitement. I miss fixing things. I miss driving these types of things. So we have that opportunity where that career path is there. It's within the support organization, but even look at sustaining. You're working, most of the stuff that's coming out of the bugs with sustaining are coming from customers and partners, and we're looking to figure out how to get those fixes out to customers quickly. So it's a good career path for those folks that are like, maybe that's not the promised land for me, but this is, I can get the best of both worlds. Work on the code and work with customers.
Absolutely. I love a good boomerang.
Yeah.
There's some of the best employees who have bounced back, and they're absolutely the best. Stefan, what about you?
I'm going to focus on a little tip kind of thing or a little trick thing. And my situation obviously is different than Paul's. I was at an AI company, and I was trying to purchase an AI product. That doesn't go well. The first question is, why can't we do that with our product? You know, and I had a boss, and trust me, it was not pleasant. It was not pleasant. He was very adamant about, there's no way that I am going into the executive leadership team and getting them to sign off on this. This is not going to happen. So what I had to do is I had to convince him that I could sell SupportLogic our product. If SupportLogic was interested in buying our product, then we could buy theirs. We could partner. And that's what we did. Turned out, SupportLogic took a look at our product. It was a serious look because they had a lot of people that were data scientists. I know they cost a lot of money. Spent a lot of time to evaluate DataRobot. And it turned out there was a specific use case and a specific model that we didn't support, so they couldn't use it. But they took a hard look at it. We went into, I think we were doing a proof of concept, and that's how I got to buy SupportLogic. So that's my little trick. But it's always about the Benjamins, right? It's always about showing how you can save money or how you can make money. You know, I always use the term, business people make business decisions. That's talking about the money. So that's what I always demonstrate when I want something, either how it's going to make money for the company or how, you know, of course, saving money if it's going to lose money if we don't do this. I can show that too. So the data is usually pretty good there. And if I can make that case, I usually can get it.
Judy, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to do a boomerang to you. You bought SupportLogic at MuleSoft at Salesforce.
Yes.
How did that go? I mean, I'm always curious about that story.
It sucked. Salesforce has this product called Einstein, as you know.
Oh, geez.
And as
I used to work
Yeah.
at Salesforce. So.
Yeah, and the gentleman who hired me when I made the approach, and part of the reason I made the approach, I was just telling John this story. John and I know each other for a few years now, right? More than a few. My first day of work, I was onboarding. I didn't even know yet anything about the company, really. And a sales executive got a hold of me and had an escalation for me. And I'll never forget it. It was Blue Cross Blue Shield. We all might have heard of it. So as soon as I heard it, and I thought, oh, okay, I don't even know how to spell MuleSoft or Salesforce yet. And you're coming to me on day one with an escalation, and it wasn't a pleasant conversation. And that was the moment I thought, what did I just walk into here? How is this happening to me on my first day? And I knew, because of, again, my time at TSIA, but I said, okay, if this is a reality, that I'm gonna have escalations like this, I'm gonna need help. The gentleman who hired me, a wonderful gentleman, his name was Rick Lehner, and I went to him and I said, hey, I have an idea. And he's like, I'm not pushing that up that pole. I mean, just flat out. We are not going to go up against Einstein. Einstein can do what you need done. Go figure it out. And I said, could we get to a point of doing a bake-off? Right? Very common term. We all know it. Like, could we put them side by side and try it? And he's like, I don't even think they're going to go for that, but go see what you can do. And as Krishna, you as my boss know by now, I can be a tad stubborn and a bit relentless. And I was on both counts. I knew in my gut, and those of you that have been in support and success for a long time, you know you go with your gut. I knew in my gut, if I could get the airtime, I could prove this. And what happened for me was shocking with SupportLogic. So we did a proof of concept. We we knew what we wanted to see, of course, and I went into it like, okay, if Einstein can really do this, I'll back down. I'll do the right thing. I'll toe the company line. I'll never forget the day that we had the great reveal, as I call it, right, where SupportLogic came in and showed me what they found in my data. And I say this all the time, you can't unsee it. They showed me stuff that was buried in my cases that I would have never seen, by the way, ever. And I was dumbfounded. I didn't even know where to go, but I knew that I had to fix it. And it was nothing that Einstein had picked up, obviously. And then after that, my AVP, Rick, was on board. He's like, all right, we're going to give a little, we're going to get a little, we're going to figure this out. And, my chief finance officer at the time told me that the way we approached that problem changed his whole perception of support. He said, you were dogged in how you were approaching this. And he said, and I thought to myself at that time, if you cared that much to solve the customer problems, I was going to help you all I could. And that changed. And to this day, the CFO is such a good partner to support, in that organization. But he saw that passion, and you have to be passionate, right?
Yes.
I know too many support executives who are weary. They're tired. They've been fighting the fight for years. And you've got to have that oomph, especially now with AI, because everybody's excited about AI. Everybody. My pizza delivery guy was excited about AI. I'm like, what do you know about it? But he's excited to talk about it. And we have to have that passion, and we have to have that energy, and we have to have that smile, and we have to have that determination that we know we can change the world. And I believe support can. So, does that answer?
It's a great story. Yeah. When MuleSoft became a customer, and then one thing led to another, we are wall-to-wall within Salesforce. Thanks to you, Judy. I mean, that's a great story. I think what I walked away from the story you just said, I think the passion matters. As a leader, we have to have a strong point of view. And this is true for a CEO as well. As a founder and CEO, you always have a strong point of view. And you don't budge on that point of view. You double down on it. You trickle down on what do you believe in. Of course, as data point changes, you can change your belief. But you have to give it a shot for what you believe in, and then you can change the world. If you just cave in, that's when impact doesn't happen. And I think for me, the common pattern I see with all the leaders we sold the product, they were visionaries. They are very passionate. They want to see change, and they're willing to do anything to make the change happen.
For sure. All right, table 2, you ready for your question? Who's going to volunteer? Just one hand. Oh, John, sorry, my friend. We'll still be friends at the end of this question, I promise, okay? If you could be the best at one thing in the world, what would it be?
I would say cooking. I love to cook.
Perfect, love that. Can we come over for dinner tomorrow? Okay, perfect, perfect. I love that. Cooking is such a big thing, especially post-COVID, right? Everybody became a foodie during COVID, for sure. Awesome. Table 3 coming for you next. Yours isn't going to be as easy. So talk amongst yourselves, figure out who's going for the question. Okay. All right, we're gonna wrap up a little bit. I'm gonna throw you 1 or 2 more questions, and then we're gonna let you guys get back. You've been such great sports. Thank you for being with us. So cross-functional alignment. How many people? Just show me your hands. How many are in support? Okay, down. How many are in success? Okay. How many are in both? Awesome. Okay. All right. A little bit of both. But still kind of siloed a little bit. Is that fair? Yeah. There's a success team. There's a support team. A lot going on in the industry. Some organizations, right? Let's watch Salesforce for a hot minute. They supposedly invented customer success, right? They're going through a big motion, pulling it together, right? Success and support now blended. So I think we're all going to watch that and see what happens, in there. So I'm going to come over here to our gentleman. with success and with support in your organizations, we know there's a friction. Let's just admit it can be there, it can exist. What worked well with the organizations working together? Like, give me one thing that you saw or see at Red Hat, and you're like, boy, those teams gel. They do really good when they work together.
So support and success at Red Hat are not together.
Just when they work together.
Yep, no, but it's kind of interesting. I'm going to try and connect this to how we're set up as an org today. So our organization is part of engineering. So we report up to the CTO. So we're more on the product side. Even though I have digital and some of these other things that cover all products. I think where it comes into play with the partnership is around those solutions and products, and how do we help our customer success executives be able to tell a good story around, hey, guess what? We're big into the layer model on the customer success side. It's like, how do you actually help with the adoption phase? It's like you can get through the sale, you can get through the install, but how do you get to the adoption pieces? That's where a lot of our people and where we are connected with engineering is how do we help them and enable them to have a successful story? Now, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but it's like that's a big win for us, because if they're successful, in the future, our support organization is going to be successful because there's a better deployment, better adoption, better understanding of the business challenge, so that we don't end up into some crazy escalation 9 months from now that it's not solving the right pieces. But I think it's trying to find those areas where you can leverage the strengths on both sides. My biggest fear on the support side is, as much as we know of our customer base and we have visibility into what they're doing, what their industry is, what their challenges are, the visibility piece isn't there. And that's why we need the partnership with our customer success and our technical account managers, because let's be honest, I have a lot of engineers that look at ones and zeros. You could put a very fairly large customer name in front of some of our engineers, don't take this wrong, Dan, and they won't know exactly what they do or what they're trying to solve unless they have those connections and they have those interactions with our customer success side. So I think for me, it's what makes the relationship work is finding how to get the strengths out of both sides and figure out a way to connect them. And the one thing, when I did have customer success 3 years ago, the one thing you have to avoid is don't have the teams come together and it's always an escalation, because it's absolutely toxic.
Yeah.
So you have to find ways where you can actually connect those teams, where it's not always on my customer's on fire, support's not answering this, who implemented this at the account. You gotta find those ways where you can connect those teams. And it's kind of, in some ways, it's just kind of simple. How do you figure out ways that you can bring the customer intimacy back into the support organization, and how do you bring some of the product pieces back out to the customer success side? That's worked for us, and I think the biggest piece is when we did this, it was one team. And I think that was the one piece that we tried to drive is we're one team trying to help our customers and partners succeed. Let's figure out ways where we can actually have those engagements, those connections, where it's not in a reactive firefighting mode.
Great.
You know, I like what did you name it? Paul. I like what Paul was saying. I have my senior.
You may be the first one this year that said that. Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, that's my senior moment for today. You know, I think the reason why we're all here is because this whole landscape is changing. Yeah. You know, I mean, you hit it on the head. I was at Salesforce. That customer success thing was so real. When I first started there, I didn't even know, what they did or who they were, and but it was a friction between support and customer success. And your suggestion is right on point, because this is exactly what I did. I put them in a room, and I said they wanted an agenda, which I didn't have one, and people were pissed because I didn't have an agenda, because they didn't like going to meetings without agendas. And they said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "We're going to talk." They said, "What are we going to talk about?" I said, "You're going to tell us why you hate us over here. And we're going to have a frank discussion, and we're going to tell you why you are causing us so many problems on that side. And we're going to listen to each other." And we just went down that road. And it was a we didn't put a time limit on how long we would be in that meeting, but how long, for what duration, was it going to be for a quarter or 2 quarters? We never said. But at the end of that, we got an understanding of why there were problems. The support team wanted to help, and I think the customer success team wanted to help. And so we figured that stuff out, and we were able to work together and do a better thing. But I think we're in a different place. And I think this is where SupportLogic comes in, actually. With this AI and the systems that exist today, I think you can do something a little different. I think teams can come together and work together. I mean, I haven't seen the latest version of SupportLogic. I didn't know, Krishna was telling me that they had an integration with Gainsight.
We have a demo back there. Do you see Jordan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go look at that. But that is absolutely amazing, because one of the barriers that I had, because my vision was that, support I would create this strategy. Support would be a strategy, and that I could use the SupportLogic and the CSMs or the customer success people could just get alerts in a very surgical way and not get inundated with all of this information, but only the information that they needed at the time that they needed it. Whether they were doing a renewal, whether they had a strategic customer trying to move them along this customer journey, or extract more value out of this customer. Whatever they were trying to do, they could get the alerts that they wanted to get from support when they wanted them. What I found out is that they were just overwhelmed with so much data from so many systems, they didn't use it. Occasionally we could get them to use it, but it was just too many systems. So I think as we kind of get systems talking and consuming information, and then analyzing that information and serving it up in a more actionable way, I think we're entering into a kind of new era. I think you're going to see some bots coming out that can do a whole lot more.
Yeah, I just want to add to this, right? So I think customer success really has business context, and support not necessarily has business context. So support has all the product context, the technical context of what the customer is dealing with, but they don't fully understand why this is such a big deal for this customer. Why they're so upset about this one particular issue. Maybe it's a blocker for some business context. So I think the collaboration between success and the support teams is about sharing the business context. The success team can bring the business context proactively to support teams, and vice versa. The technical context has implications on the business side as well. So the integration needs to happen on both sides.
And just to kind of piggyback on Krishna's point, one of the things that I always insisted on agents or whoever was bringing the escalation is, what was the use case? How is the customer using the product? Because how the hell are you subscribing some type of severity or priority to this, and you don't understand that? The business. What was the business case? Yeah. What the hell were they doing? And that's spot on, because if you can kind of put that together, then I think you're doing something. But that was a very critical point of information for any kind of escalation that was going on, because I couldn't even get them into engineering unless I could put a value on that to get engineering really to jump on it.
Okay, table 3, I'm going to kind of come to you for one question, and then I'm going to give the panelists their last question. So table 3, who's the victim? Volunteer. No, Jordan's at table 5. Okay. All right, and this one's going to be interactive. Paul, am I going from the left side of my paper or the right side for the question I'm about to ask?
I think you should go right side.
Right side. You have Paul to thank for this, okay?
There's nothing on the paper. Don't keep sitting.
It's actually, he chose well for you. The left side was going to be questionable. What is your go-to excuse to get out of things you don't want to do?
I have to go let my dog out.
Poor dog. Do you have a dog? I do. Okay. 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 All right. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I'm going to go with one last question. Let's call it our speed round. Okay? Krishna, I'm going to start with you. The future of support. That's what tonight was about, the future of support experience. Tell me the one thing you're most excited about for the next year. One thing. One thing. I know.
This is like a loaded question. A lot to unpack here.
For support.
I think we're just scratching the surface, guys. I think what you're seeing in the market is just tip of the iceberg. This space is going to explode. Support is becoming a very critical function. AI is going to revolutionize support. Support is going to take center stage. Judy likes to call the Renaissance period, and I believe the same. So, yeah, that's my short summary, but it's a lot there to unpack, and maybe you can talk to me about it.
Absolutely.
Over the reins.
Absolutely. One thing.
I agree with Krishna. I think this, it's not just generative AI, it's predictive AI, because you need that to, we were talking about this to kind of, I think you can rail in the hallucination a little bit. And I think predictive AI does that. How well, how accurate was this answer, or is it really good? And I think as you start to build these systems that are in the cloud, and you take the two things and you use all this innovation, I think it's going to create some real value for support. And I think you can sell those services, and I think that's where that Renaissance period comes in, because now we're the stepchild, right? Nobody cares. Krishna talked about that. Nobody's looking at what we're doing. Just fix the problem, right? But now when you show up and you've got the bag of money, because that's what runs the thing, right? Who brings the bag of money is the one that people listen to. Now you're bringing the bag of money because you can now sell your services, because the rest of the stuff is kind of wrote and laid out. Customers can serve themselves. So now where's the value? You've got product expertise, you've got configuration expertise, you've got industry expertise, you can navigate the company. There's so many things that you can do from a support perspective that has real value, and you can charge for that. And I think that's what we're going to be seeing coming up, along with some other ideas that we can talk about if anybody's interested. I'll share some of my really Star Trek ideas with you.
Awesome. Well, one thing you're most excited about?
You know what? I'll say it feels like it's becoming more real is why I'm excited. Reason why I say that is for this year, we've been talking about how do we do more automation? How do we use AI? At some point somebody thought ChatGPT is going to solve world peace, right? Or Einstein GPT or Hugging Face. And what makes me feel really excited is from a business side, we talked about this earlier too, is like from the business side, we understand our business problems. But when you look at these things, you start building models, you come to realize that you may not have the profiles or the experience to do these things. What excites me, like what's coming next, is those skills are evolving right now. And it's like you get the best of both worlds, of where you can have somebody, the data scientists, and those folks that can build the models and then understand what the business challenge is. For me, that's what's next. It's like we've been scratching at the surface for a while. I'm really excited to see some of these things break through and see what comes out of some of these models for my teams as well as the wider customer service folks. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's put our hands together for our panelists.
Thank you.